In history class, we learned that the Industrial Revolution changed the way people worked and lived. It introduced new machinery, improved transportation, and there are moments in life when everything around you is quiet, yet your mind refuses to rest. The room is silent, the world outside slows down, but inside your head thoughts keep moving, jumping from one worry to another, replaying conversations, imagining problems that may never even happen. You try to relax, you try to distract yourself, but the noise inside your mind keeps returning like an endless echo. Many people live with this constant mental noise without ever understanding where it truly comes from. They believe something is wrong with them, that their mind is somehow broken or weak. But the truth is far deeper than that. Your mind is not simply restless for no reason. It has been shaped by years of experiences, fears, expectations, and emotional patterns that slowly train your brain to stay active even when there is nothing urgent to think about. From the moment we wake up, the mind begins collecting information. Notifications appear on phones, messages demand attention, responsibilities wait to be handled, and slowly the brain learns that it must stay alert all the time. Over time, the brain stops recognizing the difference between real danger and ordinary stress. A simple thought becomes a chain reaction. One small worry leads to another, and another, until suddenly your mind is carrying dozens of unfinished thoughts at the same time. The human brain was never designed to process this much information constantly. Thousands of years ago, the biggest concern was survival. Our ancestors only needed to worry about immediate dangers, finding food, or protecting their tribe. Once the danger passed, the mind naturally returned to calmness. But modern life has changed this balance completely. Instead of physical threats, we face endless psychological pressures. Social expectations, financial worries, comparison with others, and the constant presence of technology create a mental environment where the brain rarely gets permission to rest. What many people do not realize is that the mind does not simply produce thoughts randomly. It produces thoughts based on what it has learned to prioritize. If a person grows up in an environment where mistakes are criticized heavily, the brain learns to constantly check for possible failures. It begins replaying past actions, analyzing every detail, searching for something that might go wrong. This creates the habit of overthinking. On the other hand, if someone experiences emotional neglect or feels ignored by others, the mind may start creating endless questions about relationships. It will analyze conversations repeatedly, wondering if something was said wrong or if someone secretly feels differently. These patterns slowly become automatic. The mind starts running these thought loops even when there is no real problem to solve. Another powerful reason the mind refuses to stay quiet is the fear of uncertainty. Human beings naturally want control over their future. We want to know that things will work out, that we are safe, that our efforts will lead to success. But life rarely provides that level of certainty. Instead of accepting uncertainty, the brain tries to solve it by thinking more and more. It begins imagining different scenarios, predicting outcomes, preparing for problems that may never happen. In theory, this seems helpful, but in reality it traps the mind in a cycle of endless mental activity. The brain believes that if it keeps thinking long enough, it will eventually reach a perfect answer that removes all doubt. Unfortunately, that answer almost never comes. The result is a mind that keeps searching for clarity long after the moment has passed. There is also a hidden emotional layer behind the constant noise inside our minds. Thoughts are often not just logical calculations. They are emotional signals. When the mind replays a painful memory again and again, it is not simply analyzing the past. It is trying to process feelings that were never fully understood at the time. When someone lies awake at night thinking about conversations or decisions, the brain may actually be searching for emotional closure rather than logical answers. Many people try to silence their thoughts by forcing themselves to stop thinking, but this approach rarely works. The more someone tries to suppress a thought, the stronger it returns. It is like trying to push a floating object underwater. The moment pressure is released, it rises back to the surface with even greater force. Modern technology has made this mental struggle even more intense. The constant presence of social media, news, and digital entertainment keeps the brain in a state of stimulation. Every scroll provides new information, new comparisons, new opinions to process. The brain never fully completes its mental cycles because new input keeps arriving before the previous thoughts have settled. Over time, the mind becomes addicted to this stimulation. Silence begins to feel uncomfortable because the brain is used to constant activity. When there is nothing external to focus on, the mind automatically creates internal noise to fill the empty space. But perhaps the most powerful reason your mind never feels quiet is something most people rarely consider. Your mind believes it is protecting you. Every thought, every worry, every mental replay is the brain's attempt to keep you safe, prepared, and aware. From the brain's perspective, staying active is better than missing a potential threat. Unfortunately, this protective system was designed for a much simpler world. In today's complex environment, it often works overtime, scanning for dangers that exist mostly in imagination rather than reality. The result is a mind that refuses to switch off, even during moments when peace is actually possible. As time passes, this constant mental activity can begin to shape a person's identity. Some individuals start believing they are simply overthinkers by nature. They assume their mind will always be loud and restless, and they stop questioning whether things could ever feel different. But the mind is far more adaptable than most people realize. The patterns that create mental noise were learned over time, and anything that can be learned can also be gradually unlearned. Understanding why the mind behaves this way is the first step toward creating a different relationship with your thoughts. Many people search for silence by trying to eliminate thoughts completely, but true mental quiet does not come from forcing the brain to stop thinking. Instead, it comes from changing how the mind responds to the thoughts that appear. When a thought no longer triggers fear, urgency, or emotional tension, it loses its power to dominate the mind. It becomes just another passing mental event rather than a command that demands attention. The strange truth about the human mind is that it becomes quieter not when we fight our thoughts, but when we stop treating every thought as something important. When the brain realizes that constant thinking is no longer necessary for survival, it slowly begins to relax its grip on control. This transformation does not happen instantly. It is a gradual shift that occurs as the mind learns that silence is not dangerous. And once that shift begins, something remarkable happens. The same mind that once felt chaotic and overwhelming starts to create moments of unexpected calm. Thoughts still appear, but they no longer feel like an unstoppable storm. Instead, they move like clouds across the sky of awareness, coming and going without pulling the entire mind into their movement. But understanding this process is only the beginning, because the deeper truth about the restless mind goes far beyond stress, technology, or modern life. Hidden beneath the surface are emotional patterns, subconscious fears, and psychological habits that most people never notice. These deeper forces quietly shape the way thoughts are created, repeated, and amplified inside the mind. And once you begin to see those hidden patterns clearly, you start realizing something that changes everything you thought you knew about your own mind. The noise inside your head was never random. It was always trying to tell you something. To the growth of cities, it was a pivotal moment in shaping the modern world.